In this video, I want to do a comprehensive review of Kickstarter for you as a creator. And it is a good fit for some people, but not a good fit for other people out there. I kind of want to distill that today and deconstruct that and really give you a crystal clear understanding of, is your project, is your idea, is your product a good fit for Kickstarter? What are my thoughts when it comes to the way they've treated creators in the past and kind of like my own experience with the platform, and just kind of break it all down for you in this video today. This is the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. My name is Salvador Briggman, and let's get right into it. Okay, so I've written a lot of different books about crowdfunding over the years. I put out content on many of Kickstarter's competitors and lots of different platforms that are out there, things like equity crowdfunding, real estate crowdfunding, personal expenses, Kickstarter launch formula, nonprofit fundraising, like a lot of different topics. So I'm very well aware of which types of products fit well with Kickstarter and which ones do not. So first of all, when it comes to Kickstarter, the number one thing that you should know is that this is a lot more than just trying to get funding for a company, right? I have had so many creators on my podcast, Crowdfunding Demystified, that have come on and said, this isn't my first Kickstarter, this is my 5th, this is my 10th. You know, people who have really made this into a career, and it's something that if you get it right, it can really make a massive difference in your life, in your career, and in your business. The first thing that I would say to get started with understanding whether or not your project is a good fit for Kickstarter is just go and browse through some of the categories out there. You'll very quickly get a sense of the types of projects that are a good fit on Kickstarter and the ones that are not. The design products, the technology gadgets, the board games, tabletops, card games, video games, etc., art-related projects. You'll clearly get a sense of like the types of products that are being launched right now on Kickstarter. And in addition, I'd recommend looking into Bigger Cake and KickTrack, which are two awesome tools in order to get more analytics into the insights of an actual campaign and to see like how much did they get funding, how much funding did they get per day, when it comes to like the overall velocity of pledges. Were they seeing huge jumps in the beginning of their campaign? Were they seeing it towards the end? KickTrack and Bigger Cake are really two great tools out there that you can use to kind of break down the analytics of a Kickstarter campaign. For you as a creator, the main thing that you're giving up is having to give up a 5% fee and having to do a pre-launch. You know, I've talked about the concept of pre-launch before on this YouTube channel, but basically you can't just throw up a Kickstarter campaign. You gotta build a crowd and you gotta do a pre-launch going into a Kickstarter project, and you're gonna be giving away 5% fee and about 3%, let's just say, in credit card processing when it comes to your project. In exchange for that, you're entering into a marketplace. Literally every single person I've had on my show, Crowdfunding Demystified, has told me that they have gotten funding from the actual Kickstarter marketplace. So it is there. It could be literally 80% of your overall pledges. It could be 20%. It's going to vary from product to product and campaign to campaign, but there is a marketplace in the same way that you have Amazon has a marketplace. You have social media platforms like Facebook. Facebook has people that are sharing. You can get organic likes and shares, like etc. It's a bread and butter marketplace. Now, the question is it good for you? One of the biggest drawbacks that I see with Kickstarter is that you have to be very transparent and put out there the fact that you have been working on a project. So if you're in the idea stage right now, and you really don't have a prototype, you don't have sketches, you don't have anything to show people that this is a real thing that you've been working on, Kickstarter is not gonna be a very good fit for you because you're not gonna be able to convince anyone. I've had a lot of people who have launched different campaigns and they're like, they try to get it out there and they try to get funding, but unless they really have something to show individuals, I'm talking like drafts of a prototype or iterations, or let's say even doing a children's book, that you have the sketches available and you've already identified the artist, you know the stories, you can share a little bit of the actual project and what it's been doing and the kind of like your stage there. It's not a very good fit if you just have an idea. I'm sorry to say that. There are many other avenues that you can go if you just have an idea. The other thing is, when it comes to Kickstarter, and this is kind of like a double-edged sword, you will get a lot of publicity, but you're also going to get a lot of publicity, meaning competitors, right? So there are different creators that I've coached over the years who end up doing one of these campaigns and then they find out that their product is being ripped off on Alibaba, or other people are trying to copy it because they've seen how well it was doing, like fidget spinners, all these things. So being so public with a campaign, it does invite a lot of attention in a positive way, but also some negative attention. And if you're really trying to safeguard your intellectual property and your intellectual protection, your trademarks, this idea that you have, and you're not willing to be very public with it, then Kickstarter is probably not going to be a very good fit for you as a creator. Now, who else is it not good for? This is kind of like a little bit of a sticky point, but I think that when it comes to a lot of people out there that are, say, YouTubers or podcasters or bloggers or anything where you're creating something on a very regular basis, you're putting out YouTube videos, you're putting out podcasts, you're making cartoons like on a weekly basis, Kickstarter is usually not as much of a good fit for you, and here's why. When you're doing a Kickstarter campaign, you want to launch a project and raise a bunch of money. So I'm talking like 50K, right? And you're designing this project, you're probably spending at least 3 months on it, if not 6 months or a year. And then you're launching this thing, you're raising a bunch of money, and then you're fulfilling the rewards. That entire process can take about a year in order to do. Now, when it comes to these sort of more micro, small creations, this isn't usually a very good fit for Kickstarter because you're creating these on an ongoing basis. Let's just say we'll call it like podcasts. You're putting out podcasts on a very regular basis. It wouldn't make sense to launch a Kickstarter campaign for all of the podcasts, or if you're doing it for maybe launching the show, like possibly, but still it's an idea, right? So one of the hallmarks is you need to have proof. You need to show people things. So I find that a much better fit for those types of projects is to using something like Patreon. So Patreon is a subscription-based crowdfunding service. If you have not come across this yet, go and check it out, patreon.com. But there are tons of creators. Also, Graphtreon is a really good resource for that, where you can see like analytics behind these campaigns. But Patreon is a service where you can raise money and create like an insiders club. Rather than people contributing to a very large goal that's like $50,000, right? They can support you at $10 a month or $25 a month or $5 a month. And in that way, you're getting recurring revenue. You don't have to keep launching campaigns. You have one Patreon campaign and they get access to an insiders club where you're sharing unique content or unique things and giving them maybe more personalized attention with you, answering their questions, etc. Patreon is a much better fit for those types of entrepreneurs and those types of creators who are making things regularly and are looking for more of a steady stream of income. Versus a Kickstarter, you gotta launch one and then you're spending the money, then you gotta launch another one. So you're doing like multiple tabletop games, let's just say. That's a really good fit for that. But if you're more in like the content creation side, probably not as much. So go and look into Patreon. Another thing I would say is when it comes to software products, right? And this is something that I want to start covering a bit more in my content. And I'm also having more people come on my podcast to share success stories as it relates to this. Let's just say that you have a software product. You have a software product that's meant to be like a B2B, business to business kind of product where other businesses are going to use the software product and you can see this being a massive potential. Like there's a really big marketplace out there. Should you launch a Kickstarter campaign? Answer, no. Heck no. It's a horrible fit. You can launch a software product on Kickstarter. I've seen people raise, $30,000, $40,000, $50K, like $100K on the offbeat chance, but it's usually not a very good fit. Ghost blogging platforms are a really good example of like a Kickstarter campaign that very meshed well and then from the software angle. But for the most part, if you are coding an app or an application of some kind that's meant for like a business or something like that, it's usually not such a good fit for Kickstarter because they're consumers, right? You want to have people that you're going after that are going to be excited about the product. So rather than if you're trying to do something more software related, rather than going with Kickstarter, you should use equity crowdfunding. Now, I've written a book called Equity Crowdfunding Explained, which is available on Audible. You can also pick up a paperback version of this where I go in depth into equity crowdfunding. But the main platforms out there are WeFunder and Start Engine. There's also some other ones out there like Republic.co, Seed Invest, some other ones out there, but WeFunder and Start Engine are the major ones that are out there using what's called regulation crowdfunding of the Jobs Act in order to raise money. You can raise upwards of $1 million, and that might be raised very quickly to $5 million. Like we're not saying there's some regulation going on there, but you can raise upwards of $1 million using regulation crowdfunding. And if you only raise under $107,000, you can actually do one of these campaigns without having to have another third-party accountant certify your financials. You literally just, as the CEO, need to certify that these financials are correct, and you can raise upwards of $100K for a software application. And let's just say that you then end up raising $100K. You can then amend your forms that you submitted to the SEC, you know, to do this offering in order to say, now I want to raise a bit more. So I'm going to go and get certified, you know, a financial person, an accountant, to certify my accounting, and then I can raise even more. So equity crowdfunding is kind of like a little bit of a better fit for you if you're doing something more software related, or if you are in a category that doesn't fit or mesh very well with Kickstarter, if you're trying to not only get backers for the project and potentially customers, but also investors to pour money into your campaign. Think about it. You can have 100 Kickstarter backers and you can raise like 10K, right? Or you can have 100 investors and raise like 100K with an equity crowdfunding campaign. So you need smaller numbers, and people actually then are getting a financial stake in the company and they can participate in the profits. Like, that's so cool to me. They're evangelists for your campaign. They're evangelists for you as a entrepreneur, and they're also participating in your success. So they're not only incentivized to use the product and give you feedback, but also they're going to cash out whenever you sell your company or you do an IPO. If you are a creator who you consider yourself to be an entrepreneur or a tech entrepreneur, then this is going to probably be the best route for you. So I'd start looking into WeFunder, I'd start looking into Start Engine, which is kind of like Kickstarter for equity. Overall, I do recommend most people that I encounter to go down the path of Kickstarter. But a lot of the times when I have someone who's approaching me who's a creator, and they're like, you know, Sal, I want to start a nonprofit organization, or I want to start a charity, I always have to kind of have that difficult conversation with them that Kickstarter does not allow charitable contributions. You can't raise money for a charity on Kickstarter. So in those cases also, you have to go with a different solution. You have to either use something like a GoFundMe campaign, or you have to use peer-to-peer fundraising, or you have to use Mobile Cause, or one of these other platforms. Right now, I also have a book out there on this, you know, nonprofit crowdfunding explained. But basically, if you're trying to raise money for a charity, you're trying to raise money for a nonprofit and those types of things, then Kickstarter is not going to be a very good fit for you either. Now, while the majority of creators that I have interviewed and that I've coached and that I've worked with and the campaigns I've managed and stuff have had a very good experience with Kickstarter, a fraction of them don't like it because of a few reasons. Number one, the team there is a little bit standoffish. You know, they've been better in the last couple of years, but initially they were very standoffish. In addition, they don't have as much functionality as other tools out there like Indiegogo, where you can retarget people using a Facebook pixel, where you can create affiliate campaigns much more easily. Indiegogo is also willing to feature you in their newsletter a lot more frequently based on the amount of money that you're doing, and kind of like almost barter with you a little bit when it comes to their services, doing a tweet. So Indiegogo is a little bit more business-minded in my opinion, and they also have a very strong hardware and technology category on Indiegogo. Now, I think that for you as a creator, one thing you should also know about Kickstarter is that it doesn't like lock you in. So a lot of the people that I've coached over the years have done a Kickstarter campaign and then they go into Indiegogo in demand in order to continue to raise funds after the project, right? So there is some degree of symbiosis. I've had people who are doing Kickstarter campaigns quite regularly, and they're also using Patreon. I've had other people who do Kickstarter and they do an equity crowdfunding campaign. So it's not like you're locked in to one of these funding mechanisms, but I think that the main reason I want to make this video is to just give you an idea of whether or not this is a good fit for you. My own review of the platform, I still have some frustrations with the platform in terms of the functionality that they give you. They should really upgrade that. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of workarounds to these things, doing things like add-ons, doing things like graphic design, when it comes to collecting shipping after your campaign is finished, using other tools in order to help accelerate your project. That's why there is this cottage industry of coaches like me, is because there's still a lot of know-how that needs to be shared when it comes to launching one of these campaigns, and there's a lot of hand-holding that has to happen, particularly if you're trying to get into like the 75K and up range. This is really when it's gonna really benefit you to have someone on your team that knows what they're doing, can help you promote, can help you market, can help you manage, and even just a coach to help you step-by-step introduce you to these resources, the best ones to use, because there are a lot of ones that are not so great out there in the industry. So I hope that you found this video to be helpful, and give me a thumbs up if you did. My name is Salvador Briggman. Come subscribe if you want more content like this. And by the way, down below, I will link up a free course for you that goes through step-by-step how to launch a Kickstarter campaign. In addition, I have my weekly crowdfunding tips newsletter where I share out a lot of the different resources and insights that I'm having, some of the hacks that I'm discovering that you might be interested in, some of the resources that I'm coming across, etc. So go and join my weekly crowdfunding success tips newsletter. And also I have the book out there, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which I think is just kind of like the bread and butter foundation for any campaign, that if you want to have a better success percentage than what's out there, like 35%, then you want to pick up a copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula. Like, I feel like that's just like, that's granted. I've done a lot of stuff over the years. I also have the kickstarterforum.org, crowdfundingforum.com, a lot of great stuff. So I hope that these resources start you out in your journey, that you're pumped up, that you're excited. This is innovation and creativity, and I'm really excited to be a part of helping you bring this creative work to the world.